Hello again and welcome to another Morty and Glory Warhammer 40k video. In today's episode, I want to ask and answer one important question. Has Warhammer 40k gone soft? Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, Morty and Glory, you're just picking the low-hanging fruit with all the drama that's been going on recently. Well, that, dear viewer, I refute, because I'm not talking about the lore perspective. I don't know very much about the lore. I stopped reading it in 8th edition, and I basically listened to the same 3 Gaunt's Ghost books over and over again. You want to know which 3 Gaunt's Ghost books? Necropolis, Traitor General, and then the World War I one. Great Silver? Yeah, we'll say that one. No, what I'm talking about is the community, the competitive scene. Because let me tell you, when I first started playing this game 10 years ago, end of 7th edition, 6th edition, that whole era, it was different. It was a very, very different scene, very different attitude, very different players to what we have now. And what I want to do today is take a few minutes of your time to go through how I've seen the community evolve, and is it for better, is it for worse, have things got softer, or is there something else going on here? So without further ado, let's not mess around any further, let's dive right into today's episode. So let us begin by going back in time to the world that was and taking a look at what my experience of tournaments was like in early editions of 40k, end of 5th, going through 6th and 7th edition. In terms of the game itself, I would describe it as sweaty. Oh baby, was Warhammer 40k a sweaty game back in the day. There was none of this play for intent or take backs or anything like that. The game was full of broken Death Star armies that would crush people inside of a turn or two. I have seen people roll off the first turn and whoever won just shake their hand, because whoever won the roll off to go first was going to win the game. I remember seeing army lists that were literally unkillable. You had things like Demon Star and Wolf Star, which could only ever be hit on 6s, no matter what, and had a 2+ rerollable invulnerable save across models with multiple wounds. The game was very broken, very, very imbalanced, and not just the game, but the way that the game was played was ruthless. There were no backseas. If you made a mistake, your opponent wouldn't go, "Oh, mate, don't forget I can do this. Oh, yeah, of course, thank you for reminding me." No, you would just stand there, you'd wait for your opponent to make a mistake, and then you would gotcha them, you would jump on top of them, and you would punish them for that mistake. And that was generally accepted. That wasn't just at top tier tables where everyone should know what they were doing. That was throughout the whole game, from casual all the way through to competitive. It was ruthless. Now, perhaps this attitude was a result of what the rules were like. The rules were broken and sweaty and everything was overpowered and the game was just crazy. And so as a result, people felt like they needed to get every possible edge they could, because if there was one mistake made, it could cost you an entire game very easily. So there's a whole sub conversation we could have about, was it the game that was leading the players or the players that were leading the game? But regardless of which side of that fence you fall down on, the end result was you had a game which had a very, very cutthroat rule set with a very, very cutthroat mindset. And this led to some wild interactions on the tabletop. And I'm not talking about between the rules, I'm talking about between the players. More than once, I saw 2 people get into a furious shouting match, bellowing at each other, "No, you're wrong," whatever. TO's trying to weigh in, "No, you don't know what you're talking about." Really heightened emotions. And it wasn't an uncommon occurrence. It was fairly regular. It happened at least once every tournament. Got to the point where people got so used to it, you wouldn't even turn around. You'd be like, "Oh, yeah, so-and-so having a go again," kind of thing. And on one occasion, I even saw 2 people having to be held back from a physical altercation as well. In fact, I myself have almost been involved in a physical altercation around this time. If you've not seen it, check out my video, Fighty Kyle, Tau player tries to fight me at a tournament. I also saw people walking away from tables absolutely distraught. I saw one guy break down in tears because a game just went so badly for him. But here's the thing, it wasn't all negative. There was some amazing positive energy brought to the table as well. Best example I can think of is Orcs. Back in the day, every single time I went to a tournament, if there was an Orc player there, you would know when he declared the war. Everyone would know when he declared the war. A bellowing battle cry that would shake the roof, would shake the very foundations of the building would go up. And if there were any other Orc players there, they would all join in. And I have to admit, I got swept up in the feeling of it. I would join and go, whoa! Everyone would join in. And can you imagine that just awesomeness happening not just once every so often, but multiple times each battle round? Just amazing. But it wasn't just on the tabletop where you had this energy. You also had what was going on in between the games as well, specifically after day one. See, the defining event of a tournament back in the day, of a GT, was not who won, who lost, who did the best. That didn't really matter. What the defining event was back in the day was the social. And by social, I mean piss up. Not only would people be drinking pretty heavily throughout the first day anyway, but after the first day, what would happen is everyone would go out together. You'd leave your armies in the game hall, they'd get locked up, and you'd go out together and you just go to the nearest pub. Or the TO would know of a good one nearby. It's TO that would organise this stuff, by the way. It wasn't like a spontaneous thing. The TO was like, all right, lads, get your models down. Don't worry about the final score. Let's just come on. Let's get out there. It's time to go to the pub and have a few drinks. And you'd have not like 4 or 5 people in a close-knit friend group go out for a drink together. You would have big GTs, what we would call like majors these days. They didn't really have all the same names like RTT and GT and major and all that kind of stuff, but like major sized, like we're talking like 60 people would just go out together. Go out, some people would, I suppose, would go back to the hotel and have a little bit of a chill one if they weren't feeling great, but the vast majority of people would go out together and get absolutely trashed, like just destroyed, annihilated. When you turned up to the second day, if you turned up, you would see a noticeable decrease in the players that were taking place. TOs took it into account. Everyone would play the first day. No one dropped the first day. Everyone played the first day. Second day, if a third of the players dropped, that wasn't uncommon because they were all so hungover that they couldn't make it. No word of a lie, hand on heart, from my mouth to God's ears, we had one dude that didn't make it to the second day because he'd almost OD'd the night before. Like, making it to the second day of a GT was a real achievement if you had been out the night before. So much so that I distinctly remember, I've told the story on stream before, of turning up the second day so unwell, so ill, and the TO going around the tables with a tea trolley. But there was no tea on the tea trolley. No, there must have been dozens upon dozens of Desperados tequila beer, and he just, no charge, the TO just bought all that there were behind the bar and went around every table and gave 2 to each player, went, take 2, hair of the dog, take 2, hair of the dog, it'll make you feel better. That was the TO with a tea trolley full of booze to cure people's hangovers. Now, I want to make something 1 bajillion% clear. I am not glorifying or condoning any of these activities. I am simply using them as an example of how different tournaments were back then. This wasn't a one-off. This wasn't this one epic rage tournament that we talk about. This was like the typical tournament experience that I went through throughout 6th and 7th edition. And then we got 8th edition, and a lot of new people came into the game because towards the end of 7th edition, even though people were enjoying the social aspect of the game, it was so broken from a rules perspective, from a combo perspective, that a lot of people had started leaving, especially in the casual scene. And so Games Workshop did the Great Reset in 8th edition, and that brought a huge influx of new people. And in my opinion, I do think that 8th edition probably saved Games Workshop. And this new influx of people came in, and there was a noticeable culture shift, culture change that happened within the community. And you tended to find that people were more focused on sort of playing the game but having fun on the tabletop. And I have to admit, I'd say I probably enjoyed playing games, the actual game itself, more over the course of 8th and yeah, 9th edition. Even though I had a few broken moments over the course of 8th and 9th edition, and especially 10th edition. As we've marched on, I've found that we haven't been to a tournament in 9th, I've been to a tournament in 10th where things got so out of hand, where the TO was walking around with a beer trolley. It's become more about playing the game and having fun on the tabletop. And then when you do go out for socials, it tends to be, I find, going out for like a meal, and you're going out for a bit of food, and afterwards you talk about the games. Oh, what happened? And rather than being like, oh yeah, this bullshit happened, blah blah blah, this broken combo, the game screwed, or anything like that, you're like, oh no, this cool thing happened on the tabletop. It's hard for me to put my finger on it, but I would say overall the game has become more pleasant. It might have become less hardcore, but it has become more enjoyable. And if I could give like the best example of like the attitude change that has happened, the energy change that's happened and has continued to evolve and become really the prominent way of sort of playing 40k now, it is playing for intent and no gotchas. Gotchas used to be a fundamental part of the game. They were written into the rules. And that cultivated certain mentality where you would watch your opponent making a mistake and clearly he's forgotten you've got a rule, and then you would gotcha him with it. That's not a thing anymore. Gotchas are heavily, heavily, heavily frowned upon. At the very, very bare minimum, you must tell your opponent all of your gotchas at the beginning of the game. But typically you're kind of meant to tell them as the game is playing as well, because there's so much to keep track of in 40k that people are going to forget what you told them 2 hours ago in the going through lists at the beginning of the round, right? And players don't like, oh, my intention is to hide behind this thing. I'm just not going to mess around spending like 10 minutes doing it. Yeah, of course, mate. No worries. I can't see you. You're trying to hide behind Eldraine. I can't see you. You could fanny about and everything, but let's just not waste time. Carry on. That is such an important culture change that's happened in 40k, and in my opinion, for the better, massively for the better. I also feel like there is more professionalism. People conduct themselves better at the tabletop. One of the defining features of a top player back in the day was, what could they get away with? Could they, A, browbeat you into believing a rules interaction worked the way that they wanted it to, even though they knew it didn't work that way? Could they browbeat you into letting them off on something even though they just got you on something last turn? There was definitely a little bit of BMW, bitching, moaning and whining. And then there was people that just cheated. Like, if it's only cheating if you got caught. People who would, in one game, say, oh, my sergeants have all got, like, power fists because they were facing an army that they'd be able to beat in combat. And then the next game, they'd say, oh, they've all got plasma pistols. In reality, they haven't paid for either. They're just saying what they need at the time. Like, I just encountered so many more cheaters in previous editions than I do in 9th and 10th edition. And in 9th and 10th edition, I can put down 99.99% of mistakes that have been made by my opponents as genuinely honest mistakes. In 7th edition, at its peak, at its most ruthless, say probably a good 25% of games that I played involved someone trying to get one past me at the tournament. At least one game, every single tournament, someone would try and pull a fast one. Of course, there are still bad apples, and there have been a number of high-profile cheating incidents that have occurred in 40k over the years. In 9th and in 10th edition, you've got the infamous water bottle moment at LGT. You have got the poo dice in Element Games. Cheaters still exist, but these things now tend to be high profile because, well, it's just not tolerated. doesn't happen as much, and people get caught out on live stream as well all the time, which I think has been a big improvement on keeping people honest. Brief side note as well, this isn't really about the players, but it's about some of the tools and the game aids that we have these days. Everything used to be Excel spreadsheets, and it used to be a nightmare having pairings done at tournaments. BCP has been an incredible tool that has, I think, made tournament organizing much easier, much less stressful, and also just made it a much smoother and potentially more professional experience for the people actually playing the tournament as well. Now, we've chatted a lot of shit here today, so let's try and bring it all together. Essentially, what I'm trying to say is, in 40k tournaments about 10 or so years ago, people used to game hard, but they used to play hard afterwards. There was a lot of passion, a lot of energy, and that had both positive and negative impacts on the game. But over the march of 8th and 9th and 10th edition, I think we've seen the game become a lot more chill, a lot more pleasant, and I think it has resulted in a more enjoyable game experience. If you ask me, if you twisted my arm and said, Mordian, would you rather go back to the boozy, crazy, unbalanced days of yesteryear, or do you prefer how things are now? Maybe it's a sign of me getting a little bit older, but I much prefer the way things are now. I don't know if 40k has got softer. I guess that's going to be for you guys to decide. But I can say that I am having more fun with 40k now than I ever have done before. But of course, all of this is just like my opinion and I guess experience, man. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Did I just live in a weird microcosm of 40k where the tournaments were just wacky? Or did you have similar experiences when you were playing 40k competitively back at editions? If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to smash that like button like we used to smash the beers back, and also subscribe to never miss an episode. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian Glory Hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing, truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full time without the incredible and generous support of my members, so thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier patrons. These are the War Masters, the people who have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a heartfelt thank you to Alex Dengal, Bonbon Vert, Mad Larkin, Marcus Roberts, Mark Panconi, RJ Scorpion, Swordfish Trombone, Try Again Bragg, John Stubbs, Nick Walsh, Diesel Fox, and August Varney. Seriously guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your support is incredible and it makes a huge difference. Thank you so much. That's all for now. Hope you've all enjoyed today's video, and of course, as always, see you guys next time.